Welcome to My Favorite Bitch, where we talk openly about the good, the bad, and the oh my fucking god ugly of raising dogs, and sometimes other non-canine pets, including the human ones. We might talk about poop, and we might swear, so fair warning. Thanks for joining the pack. Now let's get this ball rolling. For a game of fetch, of course. Hey everybody, welcome to My Favorite Bitch, the podcast where we share honest tales about the good, the bad, and the some of my neighbors are dog dicks, ugly, of raising dogs and other pets. Yes, today we're going to talk about the humans, some of the humans that I live amongst here in Central Virginia. I'm sure you all, those of you who live in neighborhoods of any kind, can appreciate what I will soon be talking about. Folks, I said this is going to be an honest discussion about pet rearing. We're going to talk about the warm and fuzzy of, oh, my dog is so wonderful and I have these warm and heartfelt feelings for her and we bond. And we're going to also talk about when dogs are assholes, and we're going to talk about when their owners are assholes. And today we're going to talk about a little bit of that owner asshole-ish side. So I live currently in Central Virginia in a lovely neighborhood. It's an older suburban, so it's a subdivision-ish style, but it's very old. You know, some of the houses here were built in this, at least the 60s. Our house was. We've got some new development, or just a few streets over as well. So it's kind of a mix, but it's an older neighborhood, a lot of mature trees. So it's not like your brand new, wide open cookie cutter neighborhood. It's very lovely. And for the most part, 99% of the time, it is wonderfully quiet. We don't have loud people, loud music, party type of things, skateboarders, all that, none of that crap, even though we have a very age diverse community and a lot of different types of people here, and a lot of dogs, which I love. I love living in dog-friendly neighborhoods. We get to meet people when we're out walking. We get a little socialization for Moxie. She gets to experience other dogs of different types and sizes. And, I've met people. I've talked about how I moved into this house and it was over a year before we ended up getting Moxie, and I hardly knew anybody. I knew like 3 of my neighbors. Since I've gotten Moxie and I've been out walking with her, all of a sudden I know a whole bunch of people. So it's a wonderful neighborhood. But there are a few people that need maybe a little refresher in dog ownership etiquette, because there is an etiquette. There's a social contract when you have a dog. And probably the biggest impact on other people, I mean, there certainly are many, but probably the biggest one is barking. So a lot of people can relate. They've lived near or next to homes where there is a dog that barks incessantly. I'm very, very lucky. My husband and I are very, very lucky that we don't live next to somebody who has a dog that barks constantly. I've been there, and that is maddening. The last house that we were in before this one was a rental in a very similar type of a neighborhood, older houses, very woodsy, but we could hear a dog every night kind of across the valley. So we live in mountainous area across the valley, fairly distant, but we could hear it barking. Now it was distant enough that it didn't impact us if we were like sitting outside on the deck, which we often did. But I would say to myself or say to him, I can't even imagine if I were living next door to that dog, because it never shut up, always barking. So we're pretty lucky right now. We don't have an incessant barker. However, we do have a dog right next door. I'll just call him Fucker. His name actually rhymes with fucker, so I'll just call him Fucker. Fucker is a grown dog, and Fucker has a brother. We'll call him Mac. Fucker and Mac. Mac they're both the same breed, a large breed, and Mac is the sweetest, quietest thing. I don't know that I've ever heard Mac make a sound, but Fucker is a barker. Now, 90% of the time when Fucker barks, one of his parents comes out and pulls him in. And they're lovely people. Really, I don't mean to say that they particularly are assholes. I think they're just busy and distracted or whatever. But so most of the time they come out and pull Fucker in, which is, by the way, if you have a dog, that is exactly what you're supposed to do. When your dog starts barking outside and you live in a neighborhood where that barking might impact somebody negatively, and I guarantee you it will, when your dog doesn't stop barking after a few seconds, it's your job as an owner to come out and quiet your dog. However you do that is, provided that it's legal and not abusive. You can pull your dog in, you can go over, you can train your dog to stop, you can use bark collars, whatever, I don't care. But it is your responsibility as a job owner to keep your dog from barking incessantly because it is bothersome to people. I guarantee you, I don't care what you think it is. So most of the time, the owners of Fucker and Mac, Fucker, and they do call him in, but once in a while, it goes on a little too long. And I have passive aggressively, because their house is adjacent to my home office, I have gone out and opened my window and called out and said, nicely, but quiet, or I will wait until, this is horrible, but this is what you do, right? I will wait until Fucker's mom comes out and finally after, 5 minutes pulls him in, and I'll slam down my window so that she hears and knows, oh, somebody was didn't like the sound. I hope they never listen to this podcast because they'll think, oh my God, she's such a bitch talking about us. They're actually really lovely people. But they also have weird hours, and it's probably the nature of their job. They have their own business. And sometimes Fucker is out barking at like 4:30 in the morning or very late at night. And when a dog does that, when it's out at 4:30 in the morning or at 11:30 at night on a weeknight, it doesn't matter how much it barks, it's bothersome. And when it goes on more than a few seconds at those hours, yeah, then you are like, now you guys are just being assholes. But they're not assholes. I like them. They're really nice. Anyway, so that's one thing. So a bit of a ways from our house, there's another neighbor, and I kind of think maybe this person is kind of an ass. This is a couple streets over, so I don't really hear the barking when we're home, but when we're out walking, we often pass by this house. It's on a corner, so we have to walk. So we approach the house, and it's a pretty big corner, so it takes a couple minutes to get around, past the house. And it's pretty open, so we're seeing as we're coming up, and we're seeing a ways down the road. And in this particular house, again, 2 dogs, one of whom is very quiet and one of whom is very, very vocal. Bigger dogs, older dogs. They come almost, I don't know that they may have had an e-fence at one time. I don't believe they're wearing collars, and they kind of come a little bit into the road, which also bothers me. We have a couple of dogs that do that. And, I carry pepper spray around with me. I've never had to use it. But if a dog starts coming and approaching my dog, I have to be prepared. And if a dog, because I don't know, they don't know, and I don't know. I had a dog before who might have gotten aggressive with a dog that was approaching that way. So, and it would have totally been not our fault. If our dog's on a leash and another dog comes into the road, it doesn't matter who is the more aggressive dog. The dog that's not contained with a leash or a fence is at fault. Actually, the owner's at fault. But anyway, often when we pass this house, those 2 dogs are out very close to the road, and the one is just barking incessantly. And the barking really doesn't bother me. What bothers me is this bitch of an owner a couple of times has been out there and not said anything. One time she had walked out, let the dogs out. They came immediately to the road because we were just about to pass her house. started jaw jacking us. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. She's still in her nightgown, probably about my age. So she's in, her glory years, but not like super old or anything. And she went to her car to get something, shut it, went back in. She walks up the stairs to her deck where they came out. She looks back at me in the eye, walks in the house, doesn't call the dog. So they just continue to bark at us the whole time that we went around the corner to pass their house. And I thought, you fucking bitch. Um, I just thought it was rude. Like it's a social contract. You're right there. Call your dogs in. At least make an attempt. If they don't shut up, at least I know you're trying, right? A couple days later, again, same thing. It was about 6:15 in the morning. This was a Saturday, so of course everybody's sleeping in. And she's out on the deck smoking a cigarette, and we come around, and I said, "Good morning," because I often do wave at neighbors and say hello if they're out. She just completely ignored me, didn't say anything. And again, the dogs were out barking at us right at the edge of the road. And again, so I know her next door neighbor. I've met her on walks. She has a dog as well, and the next door neighbor, by the way, has complained about her to me. So I know that somebody is impacted. I guarantee you, and she's probably got 7 neighbors, within a stone's throw because she's on a corner. And it's just like she doesn't care. And those are the asshole peoples that drive me nuts. It's not that it's not impacting me. Your dog isn't actually coming at my dog, right? I'm not pulling a pepper spray on you. And I'm not hearing the barking when I'm at my house trying to relax, which is when it would really piss me off. But I know that it affects your neighbors. I have empathy. I can put myself in their shoes, and I know even if her next door neighbor, my friend, had not said something, I would know that their barking would impact it. And if you're right fucking there, just go out there or say something, call them in. And I know she can. I know she can effectively, successfully call them in because she's done it before. I've seen her before where she's decided, I guess this time I'm going to stop them from barking. She'll step out the door, she'll call them in, and they come right to her. They're not the kind of dogs that are like, fuck you, owner, I'm going to stay out here and bark like my dog would, right? I'd have to go and grab her by the neck or grab her by the collar. Or my former dog, Sammy, same thing. He would bark and bark and bark, and I would come out because I don't like to let my dog bark. And if he would keep doing it, which often he did, I'd have to grab him by the collar and, or bring a leash with me and pull him back because he was like, no, it's a deer, mom. It's going to come and hurt us because he was stupid. So, yeah, so the barking thing, and the people that don't pull their dogs in. The other thing that drives me fucking nuts with the neighbors is, as I mentioned before, and these dogs do it, although they're not aggressive, but there are a couple houses where dogs have come out into the road in a questionably aggressive manner. I mean, it's hard to tell with a dog. You don't know what's going through a dog's head, and approached my dog. One time and oddly enough, usually older dogs, maybe because people think that older dogs, it's okay because they don't think they're going to hurt anyone because they're old and they just, whatever. Your dog is always capable, and you don't know what my dog's going to do, right? Although my dog's a sweetheart, she would never hurt anybody. But they let their dogs come out into the road. They're nowhere to be found, right? They don't have e-fences. They don't have actual fences. They just let their dogs out. I've seen their dogs shit on their neighbor's yard. They come out into the road and confront us. And there's one particular house. I know their dogs are not friendly because they have a sign on their mailbox for deliveries for like Amazon or FedEx, UPS deliveries that says our dogs basically don't behave, so please leave the packages here. So, and I've seen them, those ones, one of them has come aggressively out into the road, not with my dog lately, but when I would walk by myself before I got Moxie. And I think there was an incident once because there was a cop car and something was going on there, and I believe it had to do with the dogs. But so yeah, So tell me about your experiences with shitty neighbors with dogs, because I'm sure I have but touched the surface of some of the assholedness that goes on when people are pet owners. I don't get it. For me, it's kind of like, it's like people, I don't know, in the United States, at least, there's this growing sense of fuck you. I'm an individual. I can do whatever the hell I want. And there's no more social contract. I mean, I was just reading an article the other day about two guys who got into some road rage thing over probably something stupid. Probably one cut the other off, but they ended up doing brake checks on each other. And it resulted in both of the guys shooting into the other car, and one daughter of one guy and one daughter of the other guy got fucking shot because these assholes could not control their fucking testosterone rage. And this is kind of the world that we are getting more and more, or at least we're more and more aware of it, maybe with social media and the internet, where people just don't care. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. There is something different in the brains of people who, well, certainly in men, right? But in these cases, it's not just men, right? The dog situations, these are couples, or in the one case, it's a woman. It's this idea that you just don't care what impact you have on the world. It's the same as people who are in a neighborhood such as mine who would play their music really, really loudly late at night. Like, you have to know. You're either so stupid that you don't know that you're impacting other people's, or you don't care. It's probably that you don't care. And I don't understand that. I have empathy. I think of what I do and how it impacts the world around me. So I don't run my buzzsaw at 6:00 in the morning because I know my neighbors are sleeping. I don't, play loud music at midnight because I have a neighbor who has a baby, and I know that other people would hear me and it would bother them. And I don't understand how people do that, how people can let their dog bark and bark and bark and bark 5, 10, 15, 20, an hour, 2 hours, and never go out there and say anything. And poor dog, right? Dog is just, I don't know, either in some sort of duress, or there is something out there that you're not paying attention to. So I don't get it. I don't understand people who don't respect what impact they have on the world. But it's a reality that we have to deal with. So tell me about your experience with shitty dog neighbors. What's your experience been, and how did you deal with it? What have you done? I have had a dog that barked next door, way back when, and I would just have to go over and knock on their door and ask them to shut their dog up. And usually it was the young 16-year-old who would come home from school before the mom was home from work, let the dog out, play his music so loud that he couldn't even hear me knocking at the door, and the dog would just bark for an hour. So sometimes that's it. Again, didn't care about the impact of his dog on the world. So tell me about your experiences. Let me know. Tell me what you think about the podcast. Look me up, connect. I am out there. I am now on TikTok. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm still on LinkedIn a little bit. Most of those places other than LinkedIn, I'm the Bean67. That's TheBeann 67. Listen to the credits at the end. It'll tell you how to get in touch with me. You can always go to BethAnnCampbell.com/MFB for the latest episode of this show. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you don't have shitty dog neighbors, but if you do, I want to hear about it. So now go take a nap, go chew on a bone. Well, in some way, shape, or form, maybe that is something that you want to do. But go take a nap, or go, I don't know, play fetch or something like that. In any case, take it easy. Thank you for joining My Favorite Bitch, where we don't hold back about what it's like to raise that little fucker of a pet. We hope you had fun. I'm your host, Beth Ann Campbell, and you can reach me on Instagram or Facebook as TheBean67. That's TheBeann 67. And also on Instagram as Moxie Blue Yule. That's my dog's site. She insisted. I'm also on LinkedIn as Beth Ann Campbell, that's Ann with an E, and check out my YouTube channel, Beth Ann Campbell, where you can find this podcast and other fun videos on the playlist My Favorite Bitch. Remember, we are not trained dog professionals in any way, so please consult the real experts and do your research on anything you hear on this program. We barely know what we're doing. Now go give your pet some snuggles, and we'll catch you after a good nap and some tasty treats. My Favorite Bitch is produced by Beth Ann Campbell and is a product of Beth Ann Campbell, LLC, all rights reserved. Go fetch Moxie. Good girl.